This meeting of the Siloam Springs Planning Commission to order. Roll call, please.
Song. Montgomery.
Here.
Sally.
Here.
McKinney.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Bernard.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
If you would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. You've all been given the minutes of the meeting of June the 13th. Do I have a motion? I have a motion to approve the minutes of June the 13th. Are there any noted corrections or changes that are needed? Hearing none, all in favor of the approval of the minutes, so signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. First item on tonight's agenda, and we will be presenting the first and second item together, is a rezone development permit. Ms. Maegan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As stated, I will be presenting both the rezoning request and the significant development request for this project concurrently, since both projects are on the same property. This is a revision to a previously approved significant development permit, as well as a rezoning request for property located at the 2000 Block of Brashears Rd. The applicant is requesting to revise the previously approved plans for a warehouse facility with a small office component. The change is to increase the proposed building square footage by 12,821 square feet for a new total square footage of 38,421 square feet. In addition to this revision for the significant development, the applicant is requesting to rezone the far west portion of the lot from C2 roadway commercial to I1 industrial in order to match the primary I1 zoning on the lot. If you recall, these three lots were previously combined into one single lot. However, that did not remove the C2 zoning on the west portion of the lot. Therefore, this rezoning is needed to clean up the split zoning shown on this general area map and will allow the business to expand in the future if needed. The future land use map is calling for local commercial for the property. Therefore, this request is not in line with the intent of the future land use map. However, the existing land use takes precedence over the future land use map designation for the property. Therefore, a future land use map amendment will be required for this request to amend the future land use designation of the property from local commercial to industrial. This is the originally approved site plan. I'll let you guys take a look. And this is the revised site plan for the development with the additional 12,821 square feet added. As you can see, the proposed drive has not changed and the parking layout is similar to that of the previously approved plan, with an increase in the parking to meet the requirement for the increased square footage. It should be noted the applicant is requesting a 30% parking reduction with this revision. The parking reduction was previously approved with the last significant development approval. However, it is now needed again with this request. And this slide will show you the areas that are impacted by the change. As you can see, they are expanding the building out further west. That's right here. It begins where that red line is at. They are also adding an additional fire apparatus to the west, and they have revised the fire apparatus to the east just slightly, and they've added in some additional parking spaces, which are shown here. This is the landscape plan for the development. They still are providing trees along all property boundaries, along with interior parking lot landscaping. One change to note on this is that the fence that was previously shown to the north is now removed. As a condition of approval, the applicant will be required to provide sufficient opaque screening for any abutting residential lots prior to building permit issuance. And these are the elevations for the proposed building. And this is the overall site view of the property. The area to be rezoned is here to the west, and the significant development will be occurring on the site to the east. Staff is recommending approval of the rezoning request with the future land use map amendment with no needed conditions. And staff is recommending approval of the significant development request with 3 needed conditions as follows. The first condition is pertaining to the need to file drainage and utility easements via separate instrument as directed by the city engineer prior to building permit or prior to certificate of occupancy issuance. Second, the applicant must provide a photometric plan that complies with all exterior parking lot lighting standards prior to building permit issuance. And finally, the applicant must provide sufficient screening along any property boundary that abuts a residentially zoned lot prior to building permit issuance. Staff is available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to address either the rezoning or the significant development?
Ron Homeyer, Civil Engineering, 701 South Mount Olive. Just here to answer any questions if you have any. So,
Thank you, Ron.
thank you.
Good to see you. Anyone else from the audience would like to address either the rezoning or the significant development of this property? Hearing none. Commissioners, do you have comments of staff or questions, concerned? That being the case, I'll entertain a motions.
Do we do both at the same time?
No, we have to do one and then the other.
Okay.
So the first one, I'll entertain a motion on rezone development permit RZ 23-04.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve RZ 2304 rezoning permit.
I have a motion to approve rezoning development permit RZ 2304. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve RZ 2304. Roll call, please.
Sally,
Yes.
Kenny,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Bernard,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Montgomery.
Yes.
Motion is approved. This will go to the Board of Directors on August 1st, 2023. I'll entertain a motion to approve significant development permit SD 23-14 at this time.
Chairman, I make a motion to approve SD 2314 with the requested parking reduction and staff conditions.
I have a motion to approve SD 23-4 with the recommendation conditions of staff. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve SD 23-14.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but before we proceed, just to make sure we're on the same page, my agenda shows that as SD 2315. I think you said 14.
There was a correction made, Jay.
It's 14 on the agenda.
Oh, okay. Well, that must be a newer agenda than the one I was given. So, okay. Well, then, very good.
Miss Megan says it.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks for pointing that out.
All right.
I have a motion and a second to approve SD 23-14. Roll call, please.
McKinney,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Bernard,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Sally.
Yes.
SD 23-14 is approved, and it will go before the board on August 1st, 2023. Next item on our agenda is a rezone development permit RZ 23-05. Mr. Ben.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner. So you're looking at another rezone request. This is going from R2 single family to C1, which is the general commercial zone. The C1 is what you typically see in the downtown area, but we do have it in other areas in the community. This is at the 2600 block of North Country Club, so this is really just to the north of the previous project. And along with the previous rezoning, this one also includes a proposed land use map amendment, which I'll cover in further detail. The request is going from local commercial to mixed use. So here is the concept plan provided by the applicant. You will probably recall that you reviewed this area, the PD area, in a previous agenda. That did not include the frontage along Country Club. And the reason for that is the PD doesn't accommodate the large commercial development. You can have some small office and that type of thing in PD, but you can't do a large commercial in that. So they really needed to split that off and do a separate zoning. However, they do want to also have mixed use, which would mean having residential above the commercial, which you would see kind of in a typical downtown setting, but also works in planned developments and that type of thing. And so the C1 is the best vehicle to get that accomplished, and so that's what they're looking for to go forward. You can't get that with like a C2 or C1A. It really just needs to be in C1 to allow for the mixed use. So here's the another map that was provided with the application. Like I was saying with Megan's presentation, the applicant is requesting the land use change to accommodate the request. Staff is supportive of that because of the nature of the development that's happening behind it. These two are going to work together and not be conflicting land uses, that type of thing. So here is the future land use area, as you can see, with the local commercial being shown there. And then the request, of course, going to the mixed use, which would be the greener color right north of there. That would be what would be changed on the map with the request to rezone. And moving on to the site, this is looking to the north. So staff is recommending approval with no needed conditions. Of course, with our recommendation would be the change to the future land use map. And with that, we're available for any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. Is there anyone from the audience would like to address this significant or rezone development permit? Seeing and hearing none, commissioners, do you have questions, concerns, thoughts for staff or Ben?
Ben, on the future land use map modification, that's really getting me. Do we approve it and then board approves it and it's done? Is that how that works?
Yeah, that's basically it. Actually, I was just discussing with the city attorney right before the meeting that we will probably wrap that in with the ordinance to rezone. And so what would happen is the map as published in the current comp plan would be updated, probably in our GIS system most likely, but we would update that as they go along. So.
I know this is the first we've looked at kind of redoing that, and I know our goal was to provide a fluid guide, and we can see it in action now, so good on you all for looking ahead and this seemingly being an easy process.
Any other questions or concerns? Okay, hearing no other questions or concerns, I'll entertain a motion for rezoning development permit RZ 23-05.
I'd move approval RZ 2305 with staff approved conditions.
Okay, I have a motion to approve RZ 2305. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve RZ 2305. Roll call, please.
Smith,
Yes.
Renard,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Sally,
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes.
RZ 2305 is approved, and it will go to the Board of Directors on August the 1st, 2023. Next item up is Significant Development Permit SD 2315. Mr. Rhodes, your turn.
Yes, me again. Thank you. So what you're looking at is a significant development at 320 North Simon Sager. This is just a few lots north of the Brick Oven Pizza restaurant. It'll be fronting right onto Simon Sager Avenue. The request is a 15,000 square foot building for proposed electric components sales, typically sold to contractors. However, this will be open to the general public. The building replaces one that's already in town on East Lake Francis Drive. However, this will be a larger size. And here you see the site plan. As I mentioned, the access would be right off of Simon Sager, parking out in front angled, and then you have additional parking to the south and then some storage area in the back. We got detention to the north, and then they will also have screening along the north side because that further lot north is the reserve apartments. So lots of development happening right in this area. The landscape plan is fairly straightforward. Street trees along the frontage with perimeter plantings meeting our ordinance. Elevation view, south and east fronting. And then the site itself. This staff is recommending approval. We do have one condition that's needed on dedicated drainage and utility easements. This will be needed prior to the certificate of occupancy for the structure. And with that, we are available for any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate that. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to address this? Please come to the microphone, state your name and address, and your comments.
My name is Jake Chavis with Bates & Associates. I'm here representing the applicant, and I'm here for any questions if you have any.
Thank you.
Jake, can you please
We need
state
an
your
address.
7230 South Pleasant Ridge Drive in Fayetteville.
Okay, anyone else from the audience that would like to address this development? Moving right along, commissioners, do you have any thoughts, comments, questions for staff? Okay, hearing nothing, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve significant development 23-15 with staff conditions.
I have a motion to approve SD 2315. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve SD 2315. Roll call, please.
Renard,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Sally,
Yes.
McKinney,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. The SD 2315 is approved. It will go before the Board of Directors on August the 1st, 2023. Next up is Significant Development Permit SD 2316. Miss Maegan Thomas, your turn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a significant development permit request to construct a 1,448 square foot quick service restaurant with a drive-through service. This project is located at 850 Highway 412 West. This is Lot 1 of the Siloam Warehouse Edition, and it sits just on the corner of South Carl Street and Highway 412. On the screen is the overall site plan for the proposed quick service restaurant. And then this is a more zoomed in version so you guys can see the details of it. The proposal is exceeding the minimum parking required, and the proposed drive-through does meet the minimum drive-through standards. As you can see here, they are proposing to construct 2 separate drives to access the proposed development. It should be noted that there was a scrivener's error in the staff report on page 6. The distance from the intersection of another street's right-of-way for the proposed drive along South Carl Street, that's this driveway here, is actually 174.66 feet. I apologize for that oversight. They are also proposing to construct a sidewalk along South Carl Street, which will connect into the development with the crosswalk shown there. You can see that the proposed sidewalk does veer off slightly, and that's right here, and that's for it to avoid that gas meter that exists there. This sidewalk will tie into the development, as well as the sidewalk for Highway 412, which ties in with the crosswalk there. The dumpster is shown here, and it will be screened. Shown here is a proposed access for future development to the east. There is also an access, a shared drive here to the east. As a condition of approval, the applicant will be required to file access easements for these prior to certificate of occupancy issuance. This is the landscape plan for the proposed development. They are providing interior parking lot landscaping as well as a 6-foot landscape buffer along all sides of the site. And these are the elevations for it. So this is what you're going to see from the frontage of 412, and this will be the side of South Carl Street. And this is the overall site view. So there's that gas meter that I was talking about. That's why the sidewalk is veering there, so it can avoid that. And it will be tying into this existing sidewalk here that's on Highway 412. Staff is recommending approval of this request with 2 needed conditions. The applicant shall dedicate the drainage and utility easements as directed by the city engineer for the proposed detention pond and public utilities installed as part of this project. The applicant shall dedicate an access easement as directed by the city engineer for the proposed shared drive on Highway 412. And staff is available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Oh.
Okay, is there anyone from the audience who would like to address this significant development? Please state your name and address.
This is Jake Chavis again with Bates & Associates. Address 7230 South Pleasant Ridge Drive. I'm the engineer on this project representing the applicant, and I'm here for any questions if you have any.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the audience who would like to address this development? Okay, commissioners, it's your turn. Everyone has done their homework. Hearing no questions or concerns, I will entertain a motion to approve significant development permit SD 2316.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve significant development permit 2316 with staff conditions.
I have a motion to approve SD 2316 with staff conditions. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve SD 2316. Roll call, please.
Williams,
Yes.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Sally,
Yes.
McKinney,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Renard.
Yes.
Motion is approved. This will go before the Board of Directors on August the 1st, 2023. Next item on our agenda is preliminary plat development, PP 2305. Mr. Rhodes, you're up.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Chairman. So we're moving from significant development projects to a preliminary plat. This is at the 13 to 1800 block of North Dogwood Street. The request is to plat nearly 20 acres into 12 estate-styled lots. We have an average lot size about 1.5 acres, and it's creating what they're calling the Blackberry Estates Edition. And one additional lot will be used as a detention basin. And here you see the site plan. I will point out that north is going to the right, not up. So this is Dogwood Street on the top of the screen, and you got Sherry Whitlock on the left side. The lots 6 and 7 here will have a shared access coming in with a single drive. Of course, these lots will all have individual drives going off of the Dogwood Street. So unlike typical subdivisions where the developer's putting in the street infrastructure, this is one that is more of an infill where the existing streets are basically used to service the new lots. And so really just talking about subdividing than really infrastructure per se. That said, there is a detention basin planned, of course, on the corner there. And that is not an issue with the map. There will be some drainage channels coming across these two lots going to the north. But there's, with the lot sizes as they are, there should be sufficient space for a house just to be, just to the west of that area. Moving into the criteria that we show with these preliminary plats. all the lots are complying with the minimum required lot size and utility access, as you can see in the blue cells on the right-hand side of the screen. Moving on to the next one here, staff doesn't find any reasons why the development would interfere with owners' reasonable peace or enjoyment of their properties, given the similar land use and house sizes. So if you're not familiar with this area, there is similar style development right across the street. So this would complement that, wouldn't really be out of place in terms of lot size or and potentially the future development of these lots. Moving into this next one, as you can read here, staff's finding on the criteria, basically in summary, staff finds the development to be compatible with the area context and will not create burdens on present or future land uses in the area. I'll give that a few seconds if you want to read some of the other bullets. And then moving on to the next one. As you can see from the image I copied in here, that site does obviously have adequate utilities, water and sewer, as well as electric. For this one here, we don't find any flaws with the proposal. As mentioned in the staff report, city is in short supply of these types of residential homes, so the proposal will help alleviate the demand for executive level housing. Most of these larger lot developments are outside of city limits, so this is kind of a need for within Siloam Springs, certainly, and anyone in the real estate community would probably attest to that. So then this last criteria, essentially everything on the green side is in compliance, and we don't have any issues with that. Going into the future land use map, this area is designed for neighborhoods 2. And I mentioned this in the staff report, but the density is 6 to 12 units per acre. However, in this case, the applicant is substantially below that. I think they're at 0.61. But to keep in mind that the zoning is really what governs what you can do on the property, not the future land use map. We would really only look at this in cases where if it was being annexed in or if they were requesting a rezone, we would need guidance into what zones you would need to put in. But the R2 has all the minimums, a minimum lot size, a minimum width, but there's no maximums on R2. So you can go up to an acre or whatever you want and still be okay in the R2 zone. So with that, we are in support of the request in terms of lower density as it fits within the neighborhood and is meeting the need for this type of housing in the community. And I would like to pass the floor now over to Mr. Kevin Moore, City Engineer, to cover some more on traffic and drainage impacts. Kevin?
Thank you, Ben. Kevin Moore, City Engineer. Dogwood Street's a collector street, currently constructed to collector street width, so you're not seeing any street improvements with this project. Currently about 2,200 vehicles per day on the section that's being built against. It's worth noting that they're closer to 4,000 vehicles per day south of Sherry Whitlock. There's quite a difference there, but we're still well below the capacity of a collector. The 12 lots that they're proposing would add 114 trips per day. Here's an area drainage map, also zoomed in with the contours there. The water received for this project comes just off of city limits and comes down and around, as you'll see in the next report. The detention pond being constructed at the very south end of the lot will be enlarged based on the current condition that staff is proposing in order to detain water for the existing crossing beneath Sherry Whitlock. Here you can see the drainage report for the project. There is no proposed separate drainage map. These lots are so large that minimal site grading is needed outside of the actual detention pond construction. They're also meeting our volumetric detention requirements as part of all the submittals that you are seeing this month that are new submittals. Here's an aerial view of the site facing north. Again, the detention pond being on this southern portion. And staff is available for any questions, and I'll turn it over to Ben to discuss conditions of approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. So just closing out the presentation, we are recommending approval with one condition regarding the provision of additional detention to match the capacity of the received culvert underneath Sherry Whitlock Parkway. This will need to be approved by the city engineer prior to building permit issuance, which would, as you know, come along with the final plat. Once the final plat's approved, we would start enforcing that condition. And we're available for any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Okay, is there anyone in the audience who would like to come forward and address this development permit? Mr. Homeyer.
So Ron Homeyer, Civil Engineering, 701 South Mount Olive. Engineer of record for this project. We are going to work through the drainage issues on the south side. We'll either find a way to upgrade capacity under Sherry Whitlock or over detain or some combination thereof. But just didn't have sufficient time with everything that's going on to come to a resolution that worked for everybody before this meeting. So I apologize for that. But I'm here to answer any questions you might have about the project.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the audience who would like to address this? Please state your name and address.
I'm Bernadette Keck, 1300 Deerfield Meadow, Siloam Springs, Arkansas. So I live in the neighborhood that's going to be adjacent to this development, and I just have some questions on if there will be any break or tree lines added in to kind of break up that development from the existing neighborhoods of Deerfield Meadow and Hunter Ridge. Those neighborhoods have been there for about 30 years. There's a significant there's a significant trees, lots of wildlife in that area. So I know that there's going to be an impact, of course, to us on this development. So I just want to know if there's going to be any trees added in or anything that's going to break some of that construction noise that we're going to experience during that time frame. Or if there's going to be any trees that are going to be kept in the plans that are already there and existing.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ron, could you address that question? If not, we will get staff to address it.
Ron Homeyer, Civil Engineering again. The plan is to leave as many trees out there as possible, and along that line, we would not be removing any of the existing trees.
So you're not removing any existing trees between, is it Deerfield?
Deerfield, yes,
Deerfield
sir.
And the development?
Yeah, I mean, the only possible reason some of those might come out is if the electric design or some other utilities along that property line would require them to be removed, but at this point, we don't have any desire to remove any of those. He plans to clean up the tree line along Dogwood, but he doesn't plan to do anything with those trees.
Okay. Thank you, Ron. Is there anyone else that would like to address this development? Did that answer your question, ma'am? Is anyone else in the audience would like to address this development? Okay, commissioners, your turn.
I'm glad to see some bigger lots that are going to have some nicer houses on them. I think this is a big need in Siloam Springs.
I have one concern that I don't know whether the city engineer can answer it or it would take Mr. Homeyer. My biggest concern as I look at this development here, I look at the lot that's going to be in the northeast corner of this development, which will exit onto Highway 43. And it appeared on your plan that that exit was going to be right where 43 and the Villa View comes into 43. 43's got a curve traffic coming around, I see a traffic problem there. How close to that intersection will that drive exit be, and is there any way they can develop it where that driveway is further to the east on that lot?
Kevin Moore, city engineer. There are no driveways shown on the plat. Those will come through with building permits, and staff would encourage the developer to build that as far east as possible for separation from the Villa View 43 intersection.
All right, I just needed that in there because that really concerns me.
Is there a minimum, like from the we have minimums from corners and?
Yes, we have minimums for driveways intersecting streets. It's the lot's wider than the minimum, so I don't recall those. It's either 75 or 100 feet, but the lot's more than large enough to meet that. Thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners? Wow. I'll entertain a motion on development permit PP 2303.
Mr. Chairman, I would be delighted to make a motion to approve preliminary plat development permit PP 2303, and I can't wait to see that developed.
Thank you, Katie. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve PP 2303. Roll call, please.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Sally,
Yes.
McKinney,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Bernard,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
The development permit PP 2303 is approved and will go before the Board of Directors on August the 1st, 2023. Next item up, Mr. Rhodes with staff presentations.
So thank you, Ben Rhodes. As I promised you guys last meeting, in the June meeting, I would come back with the annexation, the final map that took in your feedback from the previous meeting. And I'm proud to present the final map that we are going to be taking forward to the board next week as part of the board agenda as an ordinance. So just as a reminder, this is a annexation by election. So the election will be on November 7th, 2023. So this would go to the electorate as a potential annexation. We did find out some additional information since the last time about this. The wards and the zoning would all come in after the election. So we need to first figure out whether it's going to happen. And if it does, then we will come back in future meetings and probably bring a kind of a mass rezoning ordinance. It wouldn't be like an individual property, but ones that would be significant. It will come in automatically as R2. So that will be the automatic zone. And then what we would do is probably carve out areas that we feel are not appropriate to stay R2 forever and actually get it zoned. But that's going to be a discussion for towards the end of the year, maybe even the start of next year, as to when we would get that done, if this gets approved. The other thing is now 2,860 acres. We did hear you about the going on both sides of Davidson Road, which we're doing now, including the land all the way on the north here. So both sides of Davidson are included. And some of the direction that the board gave us was to square off corners. So we have included both sides of Villa View here. We've squared it off down here. This is right where the trail, the walking trail to Woka is, back in that corner. And then we have this kind of squared off down here. The reason this lot wasn't included was because that's subject of another annexation request that's pending right now. We didn't want to double annex land. So we only want to take in land that's not being considered right now for annexation. Otherwise, you have some tricky stuff going on with legal descriptions and things like that if we end up having to get both of those included. So that's kind of the final version. As I said, it's going to the Planning Commission, the board next week. So that packet, I believe, is already being posted. But if you did have any other final thoughts or comments on it, I'd just be happy to pass it along to the board of directors. Yeah, I'll just open the floor for any of your questions. Thank you.
Commissioners seem to be happy, Ben. Next item on our agenda is item G, which is board and staff approved permits, which you were all provided a copy of. Do you have any questions concerning these staff approved permits?
See, our subdivision failed on the second reading. Any feedback there?
Are you referring to the annexation? Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't that the one we were considering?
Yeah, the subdivision didn't fail. Oakbrook is still
that's
an
not the
active.
same one.
Well, it's the same property, but it's a different review. So the
Annexation process.
the annexation process, which, as you know, they don't go to the planning commission. You're informed about them, but you're not voting on them. That got its first reading, but did not get its second reading. So that's, we're just going to have to figure out what what to do with that. And when it goes back to the board as a subdivision, whether they want to take up the annexation again or, do something else. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
We might mention that that's going to be heard at the August 1st board meeting, the Oakbrook preliminary plat.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I apologize, Commissioners, that will go to the board August 1st, 2023. That's permit.
Preliminary, not the annexation. The annexation failed.
Yeah.
But what you were asking about the subdivision will be at the board on August 1st.
Yeah, it wasn't on today's agenda. They tabled it. So you guys voted on Oakbrook already, if you recall.
Yeah,
It went to the board. Yeah, it went to the board. They tabled it, and so now it's being tabled to August 1st. So, and also while I have the floor, hopefully you guys saw your email, but there will be a joint workshop with the board on smart growth. So come next board meeting at 5:30, a week from today, and we can hear about smart growth. So.
Thank you, Ben. Commissioners, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.